Okay, joining me here in the studio now is Ehud Olmert, a former Prime Minister of Israel. Prime Minister, thank you so much for joining us. Always good to see you. I just want to begin this evening by asking you about this bill that the Prime Minister's office, Keir Starmer, has expressed deep concern about because this vote by the Israeli Knesset against UNWRA this evening, Philippe Lazzarini, UNRWA's Commissioner General, has condemned it and said it is unprecedented and sets a dangerous precedence. He says it opposes the UN Charter and violates the State of Israel's obligations under international law.
Well, it was also unprecedented that some of the UNRWA workers took part in a massacre on the 7th of October 2023. And there were absolutely, there were the proof that they were part of the killing and the raping and the butchering Israeli citizens. So I don't know exactly what is the scope of this. I'm not right now in Israel to be able to judge all the possible ramification of the legislation. But I'm not certain that the United Nations and the UNRWA organization took the necessary measures in order to inquire itself of how they participated in these terrible events.
I spoke to Philippe Lazzarini, who said that we'd often, as part of our deal with Israel, provide them with lists of those who worked within UNRWA. And he acknowledged that there were certain staff members that they were concerned about, that they had dismissed, that they believed were active members of Hamas, some 12 people or less or more that they had dismissed. But this is the backbone of the humanitarian aid into places like Gaza, for example.
Yalda, if I may say, I'm not certain that I can speak with the same certainty about the significance of this to the education in Gaza. Gaza is in a mess right now, and it has to be taken care of. And we certainly have to make sure that as long as we are there, that the education will be provided to everyone that needs it, and that there can be no argument about this. Whether UNRWA is an effective organization that could take care of it in the manner that it needs to be taken care of, I'm not certain. And the fact that they even admits that some of theirs were involved in the terrible massacre, it certainly justifies a certain degree of suspicion and of care and of measures that ought to be taken by the Israeli government. You know very well, I'm not a supporter of this government, and I'm inclined to almost automatically to say if the government is doing something, it's probably wrong. But when it comes to UNRWA, UNRWA has not proved itself to be on the right side in terms of the human person, basic human values.
But the other concern, Prime Minister, has been the level of aid, especially in the first few weeks of October, that has been getting into, or the lack of aid getting into Gaza, where the UN has called on Israel, and even the United States, partners like the United States, the UK, have asked Israel to prove that they don't have a policy of starvation towards the people of Gaza. I
hope very much that there is not a policy of starvation. I'm almost certain that there is not a policy of starvation, but on this issue, there can be no argument between those who are arguing that we have to make sure that all the humanitarian needs, food, everything is provided to the citizens of Gaza. There can be no doubt about that, and I hope that it is done. It has nothing to do with UNRWA and the UNRWA workers, particularly those who took part in the massacre. But as far as humanitarian concerns are on the agenda, it has to be taken care of. And if it's not, it's a terrible thing that must be changed immediately.
Do you believe that the Israeli government is not providing the kind of aid that they should be? When we look at graphs, for example, we can see throughout October that obligation has not been met.
I want to be very honest. I don't know. I'm not familiar with all the details. I don't know what exactly is taking place over there, and to what extent it depends on circumstances, on the battles that are still going on the difficulties that it creates, on the fact that city is messed up and that it's very difficult to do certain things. As I said, as far as I'm concerned, while I entirely disagree with this government on the policy and on the objectives, I don't think that it can be completely criticized as far as UNWRA is concerned. And if we don't provide humanitarian support as is required, it is something that has to be changed immediately.
And UNWRA, though, plays a huge part in providing that humanitarian.
Oh, there can be other arrangements made, and it has been made, and it can be done. I don't know. I'm not involved in running the affairs, unfortunately. But as I said, we are absolutely responsible for providing the humanitarian support to the people that are living there. There is no question about it.
Prime Minister, you and I have spent the year discussing the situation in Gaza, Israel's responsibility, the crisis within Israel itself. With so much bloodshed that we have seen in Gaza and with Israel itself in a state of political and internal turmoil, how do you think that this moment can be passed and you know, that this policy to escalate, to de-escalate, do you think that there is any hope now?
There are many complexities here, and we have to distinguish one from the other, okay? So if you talk only about Gaza, I have said it long ago, and I think I shared these thoughts with you as well. The time has come for an immediate cessation of the war in Gaza, a deal to bring back all the hostages, and Israel should withdraw completely from Gaza. There is nothing that we can achieve more in a military operation that is worth the cost of the lives of Israeli soldiers. And every day we lose 1 or 2 or 3 soldiers unnecessarily. The loss of lives of innocent Palestinians that live in the areas which are taken care of by the Israeli military operations. And as I said again, we have to bring back the hostages. This is the most important fundamental commitment of the State of Israel. And if, for the sake of the lives of those who are still alive there, we need to stop the war now, we have to stop it now. That's number one. We have to pull out. There should be an agreement and an understanding with the Palestinians and possibly also with the moderate Arab, Sunni Arab countries in the area, that there will be a security force that will take over from Israel while Israel pulls out completely.
Do you think the Arab nations would do that, though?
I think that but you know, I'm not a political commentator. I just want to believe that if they, as some of them say, the Palestinian Authority will be reformed, that there is a likelihood, and I heard it from some of the leaders of the region that I met with recently, there is a likelihood that the Arab countries in the area will be prepared to participate in an effort, number one, to establish a necessary security force that will prevent the Hamas from turning into any dominant position. And number two, also, there will become an administration to run Gaza linked to the Palestinian Authority that will be able to start and rebuild this
because we haven't seen a day after plan. I mean, you and Palestinian partners of yours have come together to try and propose some kind of peace deal that would lead to a two-state solution.
There are two things. I've been saying it now for almost 8 months, maybe more, from the beginning of this year, that we have to provide a political horizon, that the war can't be ended without the next step that Israel is prepared to take, that Israel is offering in order to create the necessary change that will prevent the repetition of what we have been through in the last year. And in my mind, the only possible political solution is negotiations for 2 states. And I have prepared, together with Dr. Nasser El-Kidwa, the former foreign minister of the Palestinian Authority and the former ambassador to the United Nations, a statement signed by both of us, which talks about the end of the war in Gaza as one phase and the embarkment on negotiations for a comprehensive solution on the basis of the peace plan that I presented to the Palestinian Authority in 2008-2009 while I was Prime Minister.
Are you worried? Next week is the US elections, and I know you'll say it's up to the Americans to decide who they want as their leader. But should there be a Trump 2.0, are you worried that the proposal that you're making, the idea of a day after two-state solution, is not something that the Trump administration would have appetite for?
I'll tell you something, which I'm afraid some people tend to forget. Donald Trump proposed the deal of the century in early 2020, while he was still president. And he called, the most spectacular peace plan, the deal of a century, whatever. The deal of a century was explicitly talking about two states. So as far as two states are concerned, there is no difference, in my mind, between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Now, I don't suggest that you will support any of them, and I leave it, as you correctly proposed, to the American people to decide. I don't think that this attitude that we used to have in the past, that we judge he who can become president of America according to his attitude to the state of Israel. We are not the center of the world. America is the center of the world is the center of the world, and the president of the United States has to be good to America, has to be good to the world, and if he will be good to America, he will also be good to our region, to us, and also to the Palestinians, because an American president, I think, is incumbent upon him to use all his power of persuasion in order to force the two sides to sit together and start talk business. And if Trump will be president, he will do it, God bless him. If Kamala Harris will be president, she will do it, God bless her. I believe that they will have to do it.
Do you think, though, there has been a lack of American leadership? There's been an absence in the course of the last year.
That will be unfair to say. Some of the leadership that America manifested over the last year may have not been necessarily what some wanted it to show. But let's face it, President Biden arrived in Israel on the 18th of October 2023, 11 days after the terrible day of the 7th of October. And since then, he has been very, very consistent in supporting the security of the State of Israel, the right of Israel to reach out for the Palestinian leaders and try and break down the Hamas for obvious reasons. American boats, military carriers, and atomic submarine and American planes were ready to defend the State of Israel in the event that Iran will wage a comprehensive war against us. They actually, together, by the way, with the British Army and the French Army, they intercepted the ballistic missiles. Not only them, of course, we did the most of it, but they did, and the British did, and the French did, in order to defend the State of Israel. So they showed leadership, they showed intervention, they showed care, and they showed a commitment, and at the same time, they kept talking all the time about a political solution, which unfortunately the Prime Minister of Israel is not ready to provide.
Prime Minister, it's always fascinating talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you, Yalda.
Thank you.